Welcome to Buffzone. We are here for week 5 already. Can you believe that, Pat? That we're 5 weeks into this season.
Time flies when you're having fun.
And we're having a lot of fun because the Buffs are 3-1. It's very exciting. They're beating some really powerhouse teams like Nicholls State and Massachusetts. But they have a powerhouse, sort of, coming up this week. They have Oregon, who has been a powerhouse over the last several years. Obviously, coming in unranked after that big loss to Utah. Going to be interesting. We'll talk about the Ducks here in a second, but real quick, your thoughts on that Nicholls game last week. The Buffs win 48-0, obviously against a very bad opponent. Your thoughts on that game?
Much like the UMass game, it was good to see the Buffs take care of business against an undermanned opponent. Some other guys got in the action. Cepho obviously didn't look his sharpest at the quarterback spots. A lot of his balls were sailing. So hopefully a lot of that can be attributed to the shoulder injury that he suffered the previous week against Colorado State, because they're going to need him at 100% this week. But overall, good to see, good to get the shutout for one thing.
Right.
Get 3-game winning streak for the first time in years. And then, like I said, to take care of business against an undermanned opponent. This Buffs team hasn't done that in recent years.
Yeah.
Good to see him do it twice in a 3-week span.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. With the big concern I got out of that one, though, was Cepho, and he was airmailing some throws in that game. And we just talked to him a little bit ago at his press conference, and he said he's in a lot of pain when he throws the football. And, it's kind of a pain tolerance thing at this point. But if he doesn't learn to tolerate a little bit better than he did the other day, they're going to be in trouble, aren't they?
It does beg the question if Cepho maybe should have sat in that Nicholls game, even if he was feeling better by the end of the week, even if he was making throws at practice by the end of the week. Clearly, this wasn't the same player who had a big game against Colorado State.
Right.
His throws were off target. Even some of the ones he did complete were off target or forced his receivers into really vulnerable positions. And obviously that can't happen this week.
Right.
It might have been better served to sit him. They should have beaten Nicholls State with or without him. But coming in this week, obviously they need him at 100%. Those balls that were sailing against Nicholls, those will be picked off, or the offense will just be ineffective against this Ducks team, which comes in here with a porous defense.
Right, yeah, they struggle on defense. One thing about Cepho, last thing we'll wrap that up, is that both Cepho and Mike McIntyre said today that he threw a lot better today than he did a week ago. So maybe that's encouraging. It does still hurt him, but like I said, it's a pain tolerance thing. So if he can tolerate it, he should be all right. But on to the Ducks. We know, everybody knows what happened to the Ducks on Saturday night. 62-20 loss to Utah, knocked Oregon out of the polls for the first time in 6 years. How do you see this Ducks team coming in here?
It's interesting. It's too bad our post-game coverage from Saturday couldn't have included what happened much later that night to Oregon, because I think a lot of people, including ourselves, were mystified at how lopsided that became for Oregon. Right. Utah obviously is a little bit better than advertised, but this is not the same Oregon team as the last few years. That said, there's still some aspects that do not change for the Buffs. They still cannot turn the ball over in this game, which they've done a good job of during this win streak. They still have to play their best game of the year in order to beat the Ducks this week.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it is not the same Oregon team, but I don't think they're nearly as bad as they showed against Utah. They looked fairly decent against a good Michigan State team on the road earlier this year. So I believe the Buffs when they say they still have to play really good, and they respect this Oregon team. They have to. I'm curious to see how this Buffs team, which has not done well against Oregon at all since joining the Pac-12, if they can finally match up with this team and at least give them a game.
It's going to be interesting to see the mindset that Oregon comes in here. Already we're hearing the rhetoric of whether this is going to be an angry Ducks team coming in off of that kind of loss, or if this is a Ducks team that's reeling and ripe for the picking after a game like that, being down and kind of kicking them when they're down. Regardless of which Ducks team shows up, I think the Buffs have to approach it as the latter, that this is a vulnerable Ducks team, that they do have an opportunity to take advantage of an Oregon team that's a little bit down this year, and that the Buffs do have to come out with that mindset that they're going to kick this team while it's down.
Yeah. It reminds me, Jared Bell mentioned in the press conference the Georgia game. He's been here forever. So he was here for the Georgia game 6 years ago. That was probably the biggest win of his career, he said. This game reminds me of that a little bit, and that Georgia was a powerhouse program that was really reeling coming into Boulder. It was a night game on ESPN, and CU won the game. This is an Oregon team that's been a powerhouse. They're reeling. It's a night game on ESPN here at Folsom. Should be interesting.
Obviously, all the stars are aligning once again, but it should be a great atmosphere. Definitely looking forward to it this Saturday night.
And the other common thing is that Jared Bell was on the roster then, and he's on the roster now.
There you go.
So I guess by nature it's a CU win. But, it's prediction time. What do you think is going to happen in this game?
I still don't see the Buffs coming out on top. I think it will be a great game, and CU will obviously score points. I think just too many weapons for Oregon, and this is still a team that's hungry for a great finish in the national picture. I'm going to say somewhere in the range of about 44 to 28, maybe 44-31,
Yeah.
Oregon.
I'm thinking the exact same way you are, and this will be the first time I'm picking against the Buffs this year. I just don't see them being quite there to beat Oregon, and I'm picking about the same thing. I'm going to say about 45-28 Oregon.
All right, well, we'll see what happens on Saturday night.
All right, thanks. We'll be back next week to look at Week 6.